Okay, Parshat Vayishlach. As I am in Israel, I'm dropping a recording of Tzvi Hoffman's commentary to Parshat Vayishlach. He starts with a fascinating question, um, and that is, should we view Yaakov's preparations for war as a successful model? That's an interesting question. The related question is, I think the more important question, what was Esav's true intention as he was coming to Yaakov Avinu? Right, we think we know, but the Torah has the perception of the people, the messengers that come back to Yaakov and say, "Oh, Esav is coming with people; he's coming to kill you." We don't know that that's true. That's their perception, right? Is Esav really over the anger and the jealousy and the hatred? He no longer wants to kill Yaakov, and therefore all the preparation was unnecessary. Or no, the preparation was necessary, and maybe it was successful. And then maybe we can model it. Now, maybe we can model it anyways because it makes sense. But he has a fascinating kind of middle position on all this. The first thing he says is Esav was 1,000% coming to kill Yaakov. There is no question about it. That perception was reality. How do we know? So this is something I've thought for a long time. It's nice to see it in print. He says he's coming with 400 people. 400 people is a fighting force back in those days. Right? We think of armies in massive, massive numbers. But when Avram went to fight for the five kings, he went to get involved in a war and save loads. He takes 318 people. Forget the medrash, right? Let's look at the simple text. That's a fighting force. Now, 400 men, right? It's like 20% more. It's an enormous force. You don't come with an army if you don't want to kill somebody, right? You want to reconcile, come with 10 people. Come with right? You need some personal bodyguards, great. Come with the family members. Coming with 400 men means I'm coming to get you. I am coming for you. Now, does that mean that Yaakov was successful? So here is where there's a little twist. He says that Hashem, right, b'derech nes, miraculously saves Yaakov Avinu. Right, Hashem intercedes. Hashem kind of tweaks Esav's mind, if you will, or however that works. But it was b'derech nes. Right, when you have somebody who is that set on killing you with that much anger, right? You have to be prepared for battle. Diplomacy, maybe not so much, right? Maybe the message here is diplomacy is not always going to work. Sometimes you have to go to war, as we know all too well. But that is why Yaakov Avinu was saved miraculously because he davened and because he was Yaakov Avinu. So that is point number one. Point number two, which is also psukim that we kind of come back to again and again. Right? Yaakov has this double language. This is in Perek Lamed Bet Pasuk Chet, chapter 32, verse 8. Right? As he sends the angels to Esav, and the pasuk says, "Vayira Yaakov me'od." Yaakov was very afraid. Vayitzer lo, and he was fearful. And therefore, Bayachat Tzatzam Asher Ito, Vatzatzom, blah blah. He splits the camp into two. So everybody picks up on the fact that there's a double language, right? Vayira Yaakov me'od, Vayetzer. He was afraid, and he was afraid. I know he was afraid. Just tell me once that he was afraid. What are you telling me twice for? I don't need to know it again. Esav is coming to kill him. He is terrified. Good. What is Vayira, Vayetzer? That double language. So here he quotes the Medrash, right? That Rashi quotes as well. That there's two different types of fear happening here. One is the fear that he's going to be killed. Right? That's actually, I believe, if I remember correctly, the second in Rashi. Right? You fear you're afraid you're going to die. But there's another fear And that fear is that he's going to have to kill Esau, right? And deal with the trauma of taking an enemy's life, even when justified, right? There is, you take somebody, you can see the Nitziv um, by actually Pinchas, right? That's a beautiful Nitziv if you want to take a look at it, about the effect that taking a life has on our soul, even though it's justified. It's the right thing to do, but nevertheless, you've taken a human life. Right? So that is Vayira, Vayetz. I'm afraid maybe they'll kill me, but I'm also afraid I am going to have to kill somebody else. Um, Now, Rav David Tzvi Hoffman reads that a little bit differently. And he says that Yaakov is simply a person who is averse to any bloodshed, right? He is, in his heart, really the Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. He's just not aggressive. He's not into fighting. He's against bloodshed, right? And we see that the Rav David Tzvi Hoffman says that this plays out in the future of his life, right? When Shimon and Levi go and they wipe out Shechem, Yaakov says, "No, what were you doing? You can't do it." Forget. We're not interested today in the that episode, but Yaakov simply has this aversion to bloodshed. And Rav David Tzvi Hoffman says, you see that it begins here. Doesn't want to be killed, doesn't want to have to be killed, doesn't want anything to do with death. Now, he doesn't say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but then he says that's the nature, the temperament, the outlook of Yaakov Avinu, and it plays out throughout his lifestyle. The next piece he says, which is, I think, also incredibly meaningful for today, if you look at what Yaakov does, right, in terms of just three things in the Medrash, there is prayer, there is diplomacy, and then there's war. If you look at what he actually does, right, so he sends the angels, the messengers out to see Esav, and then he gets the camp ready. And then only then does he turn to Hashem and say, right, Vayomer Yaakov, right, Elohei Abraham, Yitzchak, etc. Right, please be good to me. Only then he davens, right? You can't daven and hope for the best and then go to war. Right? You have to daven amidst going to war, but you have to make your preparations. You have to get ready, and then daven. That's going to be successful. Again, you could probably daven before too. Probably not the end of the world, but that is his next point. Okay, here's another point that I love, and this is Pasuk Chaf Gimel, right, verse 23. Right, so Vayakam Balayla Hu Vayikach et Shtei Nashav et Shtei Shifchotav and his 11 children. Vayavor et Ma'avor Yabok. They go over, they cross over, right, the river, the Ma'avor, the crossing at Yabok. And then Vayikachem Vayavirem et Hanach. He takes them, he helps them over the river. Vayaver et Kol Asher Lo, and he brings everything over. Vayivater Yaakov Levado, and Yaakov remains alone. Vayavek Ishimo Alot HaShachar. And he battles with the man until dawn. There is a medrash which he clearly disposes of, and I kind of like that. The medrash says that Yaakov Avinu crossed over, and then he went back for pachim ktanim, for these little jugs and vessels. Seems a very, very, very strange thing that Yaakov takes his family over the river, and then abandons them and goes back for these trinkets, for these little things, these jugs. It doesn't make any sense at all. Why does Yaakov go back? All right, so here he offers not an explanation for Yaakov, but an explanation for divine intervention in human history. And he says, this is his language, Hashem, who is the Sovev Kol Hasibot. Right? Hashem turns all the reasons around. Hashem is in charge of history. Hashem needs and wants for Yaakov to have a fight with this angel. We'll get to that fight in just a moment. It doesn't matter why Yaakov went back. Hashem worked it out so that he went back, right? It's almost as if David Hoffman is saying, don't worry yourself with why Yaakov went back. It's not about the Pachim Ktanim. It's not about these little jugs. It's not about something else. It's about the fact that Hashem wanted Yaakov to go back, and he made sure he went back. He forgot something. He this, he that. It doesn't mean it was right. It doesn't mean we should learn that you should go back and abandon your family for some financial trinkets. Hashem wanted it to happen. He made it happen because Hashem needed Yaakov to encounter the angel of Esav. That's a very important meeting. That is, that'll be his next point. But that meeting is important and that meeting is critical. And therefore Hashem made it happen. Right? Sovev kol hasibot. Hashem turns the world around. He makes everything that needs to happen. Don't go searching for reasons for why Hashem, for why Yaakov went back. That's the wrong question, says Rav David Tzvi. Ask why Hashem wanted Yaakov to go back. And that brings us to, right, Chavhei and Chavav. Vayivater Yaakov levado v'yaveki Shimon alot hashachar. Right, Yaakov fights with this person. Vayar kilo yacholo. This person, angel, sees that he cannot beat Yaakov. Vayigaf bekaf yirecho, and he touches, right, the sciatic nerve. Ateka kaf yerach Yaakov behavko imo, and he injures him. He leaves a message, and then it goes Vayomer shalcheni. We'll get to that in a second. Why does Hashem want Yaakov to fight with the angel? And here also, I think the traditional answer is that yes, Yaakov needs to learn. We have to toughen up Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov is meek, and Yaakov's afraid of Esav. Yaakov needs to be empowered if he's going to lead Am Yisrael and Bnei Yisrael and be the father of the 12 tribes. And he needs to have strength. And therefore, he needs to learn that he can beat even an angel. He can take him down, right? Ki sarita im Elokim betuchal. You wrestled with God and you won. And that's why we're called Yisrael and Bnei Yisrael. Yaakov has to transition from personal name Jacob to national name Israel, and you got to be strong to do that. That's not what Tzvi Hoffman says. Tzvi Hoffman says, why fight with the angel? To show Yaakov that a person who walks with Hashem can best even an angel. Right? It's about staying with Hashem and remaining faithful, and that faith will give you the capability to beat even an angel of Hashem. I prefer my first answer, but that's the suggestion that Rav David Tzvi Hoffman makes. I'll give you two more points, each relating to this story. Why does the angel have to go? Right? It's kind of this funny thing. Vayomer shalcheni, this is in Chav Zayin 27. Vayomer shalcheni ki Allah hashachar. Right? Send me because it's now dawn. Vayomer lo ashlechachakim berachtani. Yaakov says, realizing this is now some sort of an angel, some sort of a different being, I'm not going to let you go unless you give me a bracha. Right? Vayomer lav mashmecha, Vayomer Yaakov. He says, what's your name? My name is Jacob. Right? And he said, okay, Vayomer lo Yaakov yemer od shimcha. Ki'im Yisrael, you no longer be Jacob, you're Israel. Ki saritam Elokim be'im anashim betuchal, you fought with gods and people and you prevailed. Why does the angel have to go? Keep fighting, subdue him. Right? And here, even though I told Steve, I'm recording this Wednesday, so I told Steve Pasternak yesterday, or maybe it was Eve, one of the Pasternaks, that I don't really care about the workings and the rules of angels. Rav David Tzvi Hoffman cares more than I do, and he says as follows. Right? One, some people suggest that you can't see angels during the day, so the guy's got to go before he disappears. That Rav David Tzvi Hoffman rejects and says that is indeed not true. Rather, he says the angel had to go to work. Right? You got to clock in, punch the card. You got to go, and what is the angel work? The angel's work is to sing Shira, to sing praise to Hashem, and that begins at dawn. So the angel has to go because he has to go sing his praises, right? And therefore he says, Yaakov, I got to go. Now, what do you do with that? I have no idea. But I think the question, right, is an interesting question, even if the answer has to deal with angelic rules that nobody really grasps. Why does the angel have to go? Because it's dawn. Right, there's probably many other metaphors for dawn and release and victory and all those kinds of things. Right, I guess you can go search for them on your own, but that is right. Rabbi Hoffman is not interested in the metaphor; he's interested in the angelic rules. Last point is also related to this story. Right, why is the Gid Hanasheh, right, the prohibition of eating the sciatic nerve listed here, right? It's in Bracious. This is if you look at Pasuk Lamed Gimel, verse 33. Al kein lo yachlu b'nei Yisrael gidan asher al kaf hayarech. Therefore, the Jewish people will not eat the gidan asher, which is on the thigh, ad hayom hazeh, till this day. Kinaga b'chaf yerech Yaakov gidan asher, because the angel touched Yaakov at that point, right? So he quotes, right, that this is actually, there is an opinion that this is given after Sinai, just like all of the other kosher rules, but it's put back here. And he wants to know why, right? Why should that be? Why not just tell this story and then reference it later, right? In Shmini, where you have the rules of kosher, or somewhere else, tell us we're not allowed to eat from the Gid Hanasheh. And here he says, again, something that is fascinating. He says the reason it's done is to show you that the prohibition of eating from the Gid Hanasheh is not the same as the other rules of kosher, right? Not eating pig and shellfish and unslaughtered animals, or trephos. Those are all one set of rules, and this is something fundamentally different. Right? Those rules are for what he calls Kedushat Yisrael, the sanctity of Israel. We have rules about what we eat and what we don't eat, right? What animals we eat, what birds we eat, what fish we eat, etc. How the animals to be slaughtered, prepared, salted, etc. The Gid Hanasheh, the sciatic nerve, he says, is not one. It has nothing to do with Kedushat Yisrael. It is a fundamentally different type of mitzvah, and therefore it's taken out of its post-Sinai place and put back in its original story to tell us that the prohibition is about the message of the story. And that's why it's placed here. It's not about regular general rules of eating. It's about the prohibition. So it's about the message of this story. What is the message of this story? The message of this story, right, is that the downtrodden Jew, the Jew in Gullus, they can be successful, right? They can rise up. They can fight with the angel of God. It's to give, right, encouragement. It's to offer encouragement to all the Jews in the future. It's to remind us that, yes, the weakened Yaakov, the Ishtam Yoshebo Halim, he can beat the angel of God. We can do it, and Hashem is with us, and we can do it. We can rise up. And therefore, right, this is a message teaching halacha, not a sanctity of Israel-related halacha. And that is why it is uprooted from its place and put back in the context of the original story, because the message of the story is crucial to why we don't eat the Gid Hanasheh. We're going to call it for today. Hopefully next week, see everybody in person. Wish you a great week and a Shabbat Shalom.